Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. My name's Erin. As Elaine said, I lead product and services at TaroWorks, and today we are very excited to finally introduce to you a new add-on we're calling TaroWorks Enterprise. So as background for some of you who may be new to TaroWorks, in general, TaroWorks is an offline mobile field services app that helps organizations coordinate with their field agents working in some of the most remote parts of the world by extending the Salesforce.com platform to mobile devices to work offline. And after implementing that app or TaroWorks to over 100 customers in more than 45 countries, we started seeing trends in requests from our customers to not only track field activities, but to track things that are being used or distributed by their organizations. So this might be everything from sanitary pads to solar lamps to seedlings. Regardless of the item, the need remained the same. Our customers needed to be able to report on inventory levels, product movements, and those activities associated with them for auditing, donor reporting, and demand planning purposes. So TaroWorks Enterprise is our add-on that's a response to that need. And so just in summary, again, TaroWorks Enterprise is just like TaroWorks. So it's for organizations that are operating in places without consistent access to network, but it extends TaroWorks by offering inventory management functionality in Salesforce. This includes three core modules for now: purchasing, inventory management, and sales. So let's do a quick overview of each module. The purchasing module is going to track the procurement of supplies and goods for your organization. And this is facilitated through a purchase order, which will increase your inventory levels when new items come into the ownership of your organization. The inventory management module tracks movements of goods within your organization. So this is after inventory enters the system. Product movements within your organization can be recorded using a transfer order. This order type will decrease inventory at the source warehouse and increase it at the destination warehouse. And finally, our sales module is how you remove inventory from the ownership of your organization. So this is facilitated through a sales order, which will decrease your inventory levels when items are sold or distributed to customers or beneficiaries. And before we dive into the product, we wanted to cover some of the terms that you're going to be hearing as we go through our inventory management functionality. A location is a grouping of warehouses. A warehouse can be a physical or virtual place where inventory is stored. An inventory is a combination of product and warehouse. So an example, a record called Inventory 1 might contain information about the inventory levels of an X850 solar light system in our Kisumu warehouse. An inventory movement is generated every time a product is bought or sold or transferred or adjusted, every time it's moved. A Taro order represents a group of products that are moving together. A Taro order line item describes a single product in that group with information like the quantity ordered or the quantity delivered, etc. And an inventory adjustment is the way you record unplanned changes in your inventory levels, like damaging product. And finally, a cycle count is an auditing procedure to help you shore up your physical inventory with the levels that are recorded in the system. So each inventory is going to have 4 different quantities associated with it. The quantity on hand is the amount of items that are physically present for a particular inventory. If I walked into my warehouse and counted solar lamp X, the amount that I count is the quantity on hand. The quantity committed is the amount that has been reserved on outbound orders from a particular inventory. So those are basically spoken for. The quantity available is the amount that's physically present that has not been reserved. So essentially this is the quantity on hand minus the quantity committed. It's what's available to be sold or distributed to other customers and beneficiaries. And finally, the quantity on order is the amount that's on its way to a particular inventory on an inbound order. So those are quantities you can look forward to contributing to the quantity on hand at some point in the future. And so regardless of the order type, we've talked about sales order, transfer orders, purchase orders, regardless of the type, each Taro order has 3 main statuses at both an order level and an order line item level. In a draft status, the order can still be edited and is considered a work in progress, so there's no impact to inventory here. Once an order enters a confirmed status, and this happens at an order level, the status of all of its order line items will also become confirmed. This status creates reservations at the source and/or destination inventories, depending on the order type. So for example, when a sales order is moved into a confirmed status, the quantity committed would increase at the source inventory. Another example with a transfer order, the quantity committed would increase at the source inventory, and the quantity on order will increase at the destination inventory. So your confirmed status manages your quote-unquote reservations on inbound and outbound inventory. And then finally, completion happens at an order line item level. So once an order line item is in a completed status, the reservations are removed and your quantity on hand is updated based on how much product was delivered. So once all the order line items on an order are completed, then the order status will become completed as well. So these are the natural flow of statuses for orders and order line items, starting in draft, going to confirmed, and then becoming completed. There's also a cancellation status that can be used to indicate that an order will no longer be processed. So today's demo is from the org of our fictional customer, SolarComb. And SolarComb is a social enterprise that does last mile distribution of renewable energy products. So some of the TaroWorks enterprise users we're going to be visiting at SolarComb today include a procurement officer who's going to be responsible for vendor and supply chain management, a warehouse manager who's accountable for the inventory and transactions within their warehouse, a sales agent who's going to generate and deliver sales orders, and an executive who's responsible for the physical and operational health of the company. So we'll take a look at interactions with TaroWorks Enterprise from each of those perspectives. As you can see, today's operations are going to be happening in Kenya across some of our different distribution centers and warehouses there. The major pains that SolarComb was facing before TaroWorks Enterprise resulted in both decreased impact and revenue and increased costs. So without centralized visibility to inventory levels, stockouts were frequent, forcing some managers to have to make emergency local purchases at higher costs to fulfill demand. Without field visibility to inventory levels, sales couldn't accurately communicate timelines for fulfillment, leading to disappointed customers and decreased impact. And without an audit trail on inventory movements, there is no way to enforce accountability on inventory shrinkage, which was becoming an uncontrollable cost for SolarComb. With no record of pending or historical movements, SolarComb was lacking the data they needed to inform their demand planning, which led to stale inventory and also increased cost. So we're going to walk through a couple of different processes at the highest level, and first we're going to walk through how a product might move through the story of SolarComb. So it's going to be purchased by a buyer or the supply chain management planner. The distribution center in Nairobi is going to receive it. Then that planner is going to create a transfer order to move that product from Nairobi at our distribution center to a field warehouse in Kisumu, where a sales agent is then going to sell some of that inventory. So this is kind of the life cycle of a product coming into the ownership of the organization, being moved around within different warehouses, and then being committed out by being distributed or sold to a customer. We're also going to cover some other one-off and sometimes ad hoc processes and tools to manage your inventory. So we're going to see a replenishment request, a cycle count. We'll create an inventory adjustment, and we'll also look at viewing inventory levels as well. And all of those will be done on the TaroWorks mobile app. Okay, so without further ado, unless there's any questions so far about what we're going to look at today, we can dive into the product.
No questions.
Okay, great. So TaroWorks Enterprise, as you can see, it's a separate application from TaroWorks if you're already a TaroWorks user. It's an add-on, so that means you have to have TaroWorks installed as a managed package, and TaroWorks Enterprise is a managed package extension. You can see the tabs across the top for different records that you can access. So hopefully the terms we went over in the beginning of the presentation come in handy for what you would expect there. So we're starting our story as a buyer. I have connectivity, so I'm logged into Salesforce on a laptop, and I want to buy some product from some finished goods from one of our suppliers. We're looking at a report here that's showing us all of the inventory levels that are low in our Nairobi distribution center. So I have a couple of products here that need ordering, and each inventory also has a restocking level associated with it. So this is the amount of this product I want to keep on hand in this warehouse at all times. So for a Home 120 solar product, I want to keep 45 in Nairobi, and for the Sun King Pro 300s, I want to keep 75. Unfortunately, what we have on hand right now is 39 120s and 63 Sun King Pros. So the system is saying you should order 6 of the first, 12 of the second. So in order to do that, we are going to create a purchase order in the system. So I'm going to create a new order, and it's going to be a purchase order. I'm going to do this today, and I want this delivery to be made to my Nairobi warehouse. I want this to be delivered by next Friday, and we're going to order this from our favorite supplier, Solar City, and our contact Brenda there. And we're going to save that order in a draft status. Then I'm going to add the products I want to order from that supplier, which is an order line item. So I am going to order 6 Home 120s and 12 Sun King Pros. So we're going to do 6 Home 120s and 12 Sun King Pros. And we could also add an additional status here on this order to automatically send a request for a quote from the vendor, or we can call, or whatever our purchasing processes would be. Once we had additional information or confirmation from the supplier, we can enter things like the transportation costs and the unit price that they're quoting us based on the volumes that we've requested. So let's say Brenda quoted us 7,000 as a unit price for the Home 120s and 4,000 Kenyan shillings for the Sun King Pros. So once we have all of our information entered, all the products that we would want to, that we're committing to buying from this vendor, then we're going to change the status from draft to confirmed to let the Nairobi warehouse know that these things are on the way. So let's take a look at our inventory levels in Nairobi now. So again, inventory is a combination of a product and a warehouse. I'm filtered here on on the Nairobi warehouse. So for each product, we can see the quantity on hand, committed, available, and on order, in addition to our restocking level. So because I just placed that purchase order, I can see that for the inventory for Sun King Pro and for Home 120, we have a quantity that's on order. So now let's fast forward and say that it's a week later and the shipment has arrived, and I'm logged in on TaroWorks because we don't always have great connectivity in our warehouse, and I am going to receive that shipment. So just to take a look again at the starting inventory levels, we have right now 63 Sun King Pros and 39 120s. I'm starting off my sync for the day. And then I have a truck that's shown up at my back door. So I'm going to go to receive inventory. And here I can see all of the orders, inbound orders that I can expect to receive inventory against. So I can see that purchase order that I just placed with Solar City. It was supposed to arrive on 4/19. I can choose to, if I had a big long list of products on this purchase order, I could choose to scan the products that I'm going to be entering quantities for. Additionally, this is a very short list, so we could also just select them by name. As you can see here. And then we're going to actually unpack this product, count, and count how many we're receiving. So we have ordered 6, and let's say we went ahead and received 6. And same for the Sun King Pros. We ordered 12, we received 12. So everything is good there. We want to take a picture of the delivery document so we can do a 3-way match down the road and actually see the quantities that were ordered versus the quantities that were delivered, and then the quantity that we're going to be invoiced for. Let's say we're not expecting any additional deliveries for this order, and then we're just going to review the information that we're going to sync into Salesforce. So this is the inventory that we're receiving. So I'm going to go ahead and sync that into Salesforce and take a look at our updated inventory levels. So once I refresh and my Nairobi inventory, my reservations for that order will be relieved. We've completed the purchase order, or it's in a completed status, and our quantity on hand will have increased. I can also, for every single movement in the system, if I want to investigate or see a list of all of those and the historical movements, I can look at the inventory and I can see every item that's gone in and out of that inventory, including the date and time. Okay, so now we've received some product into the Nairobi inventory. Let's say the planner now wants to create a transfer order to move some of this product from Nairobi to Kisumu. So similarly to a purchase order, I'm going to start with the order level information. And the difference is we're going to have 2 locations we're going to need to enter. I want this product to go from Nairobi to Kisumu by next week. Now we need to pick the products we want to send. Let's say I'm going to send the products that I just ordered. Send some Home 120s and also some Sun King Pros. Okay, so I'd review this. Once this looks good, I can go ahead and move the status from draft to confirmed, and then that will update reservations in 2 places, both the Kisumu warehouse and the Nairobi warehouse. So I can look at inventory at either. Start by looking at Nairobi. You can see I have committed 5 on an outbound order of the Sun King Pro and 10 of the Home 120. And I'll see the opposite for Kisumu. I'll see 5 on order and 10 on order for the 120 and the Sun King Pro 300. So now let's log in as our Kisumu warehouse manager. And let's say, again, we're fast forward, and this is a week later, the truck has shown up at my door, and I want to now receive against this order. This inventory I'm expecting has arrived. Similarly to how the Nairobi DC manager was receiving inventory against a purchase order, we're going to receive inventory against a transfer order. Here I would see a list of all of my inbound orders and when they were supposed to show up and who they were coming from. You can see I have this one from Nairobi. You can see some of all of these products have been received, and then we're going to actually count how many were received of each. We take a photo of the delivery document again. We're not expecting any additional orders or deliveries against this order. And then we're just going to review the data we're going to sync into Salesforce. So I've received that shipment as the Kisumu warehouse manager from Nairobi. Can take a look at inventory updating for Nairobi. We can see that the reservations were relieved, the quantity on hand is decreased. Again, if I wanted to look at the details of the movements against that inventory, I can see that we just had a movement of -10 out of Nairobi. And we can even see who did it, what time, and the associated order that drove that movement. So I could click on the line item and also get back to the order. Same from a consumer perspective, we'll see the inventory increase. We could see that in the backend in Salesforce. We could also see this directly in TaroWorks as well. All the same qualifiers about that inventory location. Okay, so what have we looked at so far? Just to level set back to where we were quickly. So far, we have created a purchase. We brought that inventory into the Nairobi distribution center. We transferred it from Nairobi to Kisumu. And now finally, we're going to log in as a sales agent and make a sale and sell some of this product that we have in inventory. So I'm going to log in as a sales agent. So with TaroWorks, this is TaroWorks functionality, you can control which users can do what kinds of jobs or essentially field activities. You can also control what data they can use out of Salesforce to execute those actions on. So as a sales agent, I can look at inventory levels, I can make sales and deliveries. So we're gonna have 3 jobs here. So at the start of my day, I might go in and check my inventory levels on mobile, see if we're out of stock of anything, so I can communicate to my customers that there might be a longer lead time than normal. And it will be the same job that we just saw as the warehouse manager. And now let's say I'm going to start my day to make a sale to a customer in Kisumu, my favorite customer, Barbara. And she is interested in buying a Home 120 and a Pico Plus. So we can see product details, including a picture of the product, the list price, bulk price if you buy a minimum quantity, what that quantity is. We could add product descriptions, etc. So she's interested in buying both of these items. And we're going to enter the day she would like them delivered by. And enter the quantity. So let's say she only wants one 120, but we've convinced her if she buys at least 4 Pico Pluses, she can get a better price at 1,400 shillings a unit. And so this would be her line item totals by product, and this is going to be the total amount due. For a future webinar, but we also have mobile money integration to get inbound or to get collections into Salesforce as well coming out in our summer release. Okay, so we're going to sync this sale into Salesforce. this can be configured in a lot of different ways. For solo home story, we're saying we basically go around making sales and getting commitments from customers, and then we do a subsequent delivery. It could also be configured for point of sale if I'm hauling these solar lamps around and then making the sale on the spot and committing this inventory out of the ownership of our organization. We can use this combination of statuses and orders to accommodate your business process. So we are going to refresh our QSumo inventory. We'll see that we've now committed some product to a customer. We can dig into the inventory again, see the associated orders. So we've committed 1 Home 120 and 4 Pico Plus. So let's say now it's the next week. I'm going out to deliver these products to Barbara. We're going to record a delivery. I would see all of the orders that I need to make deliveries on. Select the products I'm going to deliver. Let's say we had everything in stock, so I'm going to fully fulfill the order when I see her. I'm going to indicate that on the quantities. We take a picture of the delivery document that we're leaving with her, and we're not going to come back. We're fully fulfilling this order. So when we sync this into Salesforce, the reservations will be relieved, and the quantity on hand is going to decrease. And I heard I just got a notification as well via email. So we can see that the quantity on hand has decreased and our reservations have been relieved in QSumo. So we're going to switch gears now. We've kind of seen a inventory flow from coming into our organization to moving to leaving. And now we're going to cover some more inventory management tools that we have. So I just got a notification. I'm going to log back in as the QSumo warehouse manager so we can take a look at some of our inventory management tools since I am responsible for the inventory in my warehouse. Okay, and I got this email notification as well. Oops. So let's take a look at what that says. It's a low inventory alert. It's an email from TaroWorks Enterprise saying that I am short on Pico Plus. So I just sold some Pico Pluses to Barbara, or one of our sales agents did. And it's letting me know that the current quantity on hand is less than what my desired restocking level is. So it's asking me to go ahead and place a replenishment order. So let's do that. So we're going to go back to TaroWorks. And we are going to ask Nairobi for some more Pico Pluses. So I'm going to create a replenishment request. From my replenishment warehouse, I need some Pico Plus. I don't know how to say that in a plural form. And we can see the quantity that's on hand, how much is available. So actually, of those 17 I have sitting in my warehouse, none of them are promised to customers. But my restocking level is 20. So I want to have at least 20 on hand at all times. So let's say I'm going to ask Nairobi to ship me 5. And I'm going to send that to them. So shifting gears to logging in as just a moment, as the Nairobi distribution center manager. Sorry, I just lost the connection here. Okay. So I'm logged in as the Nairobi DC manager. And maybe as a part of my process, every morning I log in and look at replenishment requests or ad hoc requests I'm receiving from the warehouses that I provide replenishment to. So we're going to review our replenishment requests. And I'll be able to see the one I've got from Kisumu. And they're asking for some Pico Plus products. They would like it. There are like 5 of them. And let's just say we're going to go ahead and confirm this. Let's say we're going to help them out. And we'll get this shipped to them. So what was created by the Kisumu warehouse manager was a draft transfer order. And then this distribution center manager is going to confirm that transfer order. And if we look at it in Salesforce, in terms of the Kisumu inventory, just like the original transfer order that the planner had created, we'll see some product that'll be on its way to Kisumu based on my request. So I can see I have 5 that are coming. Now will be the Kisumu warehouse manager. Nairobi's come to save the day. The truck is here. So let's find the order that we're going to receive this inventory against. And let's say they brought the full amount. We would take a picture of the delivery document. And this is the only delivery that's going to happen against this order. And then we are going to receive that inventory. So currently the quantity on hand was 17. Once I receive this order, it should be 22. I look at my inventory levels for the Pico Plus in my warehouse after receiving that transfer order. You can see that it is indeed 22. So that's a replenishment order. Some other tools I have available to me to manage my inventory include a cycle count. So a cycle count you might do on like a quarterly, monthly, annual, biannual basis to make sure that your inventory levels are shored up with your reality in the warehouse. So this actually might not be the warehouse manager using this job. It might be an external third party or maybe someone from your finance team that's coming out, and they're going to do a blind count on the inventory levels in the warehouse. So before doing this job, you're going to want to sync, and then physically all of the product will be not in motion. So we're basically shutting down operations for however many hours it takes you to complete your count to essentially reset your quantity on hand. So I am going to just do a few. Let's say I've counted 90 home 120s and 21 Pico Pluses and 315 or 335 solar lamps. So this is just a result of a physical count. Effectively, it's just like using a clipboard and a piece of paper to go out and get these numbers. Now, based on the current quantity on hand in the system, you're going to have to do some reconciliations. So I am saying, this is saying that you have counted 9 less than the system expects you to have. You need to go out and investigate and figure out why. So we have some reason codes here. Let's say that, and these are all customizable. This product was lost, and I would need to explain why. This product was damaged. It got ran over by a truck. And there's also, you can set up whatever validations or business rules you want make sense. So this is TaroWorks functionality. But let's say, for example, we wouldn't want to be able to say user reason code product found for a negative variance. We could set up custom error messages to say this doesn't match, this is an acceptable response, for whatever business rules make sense for your organization. Okay, And then what this is going to do is the quantity counted is going to replace your quantity on hand. So I'm going to sync this into Salesforce. We would see our quantities on hand update. And we can also see a history of the fact that that adjustment was made. So if I look at the Home 120 inventory, which now the quantity on hand is 90, and look at all the related movements associated with it, we can see that the latest movement was an adjustment of -9. The reason is that the consumer warehouse manager on 410 and 808 a.m. performed a cycle count. They're saying that they think that this adjustment was made because product was lost, and use the comments so you can dig in more and follow up with the user that's responsible for this transaction. So that should be done on a regular basis just to make sure your inventory levels are accurate. We also have inventory adjustments in order to accommodate, you don't have to wait until your quarterly cycle count to make sure your inventory remains accurate. If you have a one-off incident and you want to make sure your inventory levels are communicated correctly to your sales teams, to the rest of your organization, you can also just do a one-off adjustment for whatever the scenario will be. So let's say I ran over a solar lantern with a forklift. I would want that reflected in my system. So I need the quantity on hand to decrease by 1. I damaged the product, and Aaron ran this over with a forklift. So we don't want this product to appear as both on hand and available to be sold because it's broken. So you can do the same follow-up as a cycle count. It'll just be marked as an inventory adjustment. Okay. So I think that covers, and we've seen examples of viewing inventory levels already in TaroWorks. So those are just some additional tools that you have available to you. You have your planned movements, and then you have these other tools to make sure that your inventory levels are remaining accurate at the warehouse. So to summarize, there are 4 central benefits to using TaroWorks Enterprise. 1, anyone in your organization can have access to real-time inventory levels worldwide. 2, using inventory adjustments and cycle counts, you can identify where people, process, or technology need improvement. 3, TaroWorks Enterprise can introduce accountability and control over your organization's assets. And finally, all this data can be used for better demand planning and making your operations more efficient. And I apologize, I think I actually skipped over one more view I wanted to show from an executive's perspective. This is just an example dashboard. Oh, I already have it open actually. Of at a high level snapshot of all of our warehouses across the world. I can see what our inventory is on hand by product, what the value of that inventory is in shillings. I can look at stockouts by product. So currently there are 19 inventories where product is lower than it should be. So you can kind of take a look at which warehouses need additional support or are having trouble with their supply chain management. And then the next series of dashboard components are driven towards adjustments. So being able to investigate why product may be written on or off, onto or off of your books. What is the reason? So if the most common reason that adjustments are being made is because product is being damaged, you can drill into that. Where is it being damaged? Who is reporting that it's being damaged? What is this costing me? And look into actual individual movements or transactions as a result. Also related to those adjustments, you can see what the value of those are, what volume of product quantities we're talking about, and then who's actually recording those. So if you start seeing trends and some warehouses are having a much higher occurrence of these adjustments than others, to dig in and identify what the issues may be. So sorry, I hopped over that. But I think that covers all the personas, or a viewpoint from each persona that we discussed from Solar Comb. One note I wanted to make before we open it up for questions is that from an availability perspective, we have 2 of the 3 modules out now. So the inventory management and the sales module are available. And the purchasing module will be available for pilot customers now, and it will be generally available in fall of 2019. So with that, that is the demonstration. We can open it up for questions.
Great, thanks so much, Erin. Lots of you have been putting in questions, so thanks for those. We'll get to those now. This is just a general ask. If you have other questions, please start getting them typed in. So let's get started with some of these. Erin, can you share how the restock levels are calculated? Is this in the system or is this set by the user?
So the restocking levels are set by the user. You can either use like reports to look at your historical sales activity or the volumes that are circling through a particular location. There are lots of different like inputs you could use to come up with that number. I think what we showed in the beginning was a report where your ordering quantities are being driven by your stocking levels. It could certainly be driven by other things. We have one client with similar functionality that looks at the average historical demand over a variable number of months. So let's say I want to look at my previous 3 months of sales of a particular product in a particular warehouse. And then you also might want to incorporate something like a safety stock factor. So based on the capacity I have in a particular warehouse, I might want to always keep on hand, 1 month's or 2 months or 3 months worth of stock in that particular location. And then your ordering quantity would be driven based on how much you want to keep, which would be the average historical demand multiplied by some safety stock factor, less how much you have. So I think really whatever works best for your organization around the kinds of quantities or inputs you would want to consider, variables you'd want to consider on your purchasing quantities can be incorporated. But the restocking level itself, sorry, that was probably a long-worded answer. The restocking level is manually set by inventory, so combination of product and warehouse.
Great. A question about lot numbers. Can the app handle them or have it?
So it would be a customization at this point. I think there are 4 major features that we're looking at in follow-on releases. Batch management and lot management's one of them. I think the other few are like more shipping and logistics functionality, allocations, and loan management. So those are kind of the 4 hot topics we've been hearing about recently and while working on this product.
Great. A question about transfer orders and kind of inventory availability. If there's available inventory anyway, why do you need to move the status from draft to confirmed? Or I guess maybe more generally, can you explain what the different statuses convey?
Sure, let's go back to that. So the different statuses drive updates to different inventory quantities. So the quantity, there are 2 that kind of represent future changes in quantity on hand. The quantity committed represents a future decrease in the quantity on hand, and the quantity on order represents a future increase in the quantity on hand. So those are just data points to help you consider any other, like to take into consideration for your planning essentially. So when you move an order from draft to confirmed is when that quantity on order and quantity committed changes, to just give additional insights into the pending movements out of from an inventory location or to an inventory location. I'm not sure if that answered the question. Please let me know if it didn't.
Yeah, feel free to chat if you have any follow-ups there. Okay, a few questions. Actually, I'll start with this one. So, is there any form of supplier management functions, like measuring on-time deliveries?
Not so measuring on-time deliveries could definitely easily be configured. I think, yeah, there are also some other enhanced like supplier management functionality that we're looking at as well. But as far as that is concerned, like recording the expected delivery date that you would know at the time you're confirming the order versus the reality of when it's delivered, you could definitely capture metrics and do reporting on that to look at supplier performance.
Great. And then a follow-up question from Neil. Is there any way in which stock adjustments need to be validated before they're adjusted in the system or before the amounts are adjusted in the system?
Um, I think so. I've heard that as well. I think there are different approaches in I think the way that you like the roles and responsibilities around inventory management. I think in this story we're saying that the warehouse manager is responsible for their inventory, so and accountable for their inventory. So I think as much as it feels like an important job to be able to do inventory adjustments and cycle accounts or cycle counts, if you made a mistake or you management wanted you to go back and relook into something and change something as easily as you can do an inventory adjustment for a +2 of a solar lamp, you can also just go in the next sync and do a -2. So I think what this is more geared towards is transparency and audit trails and visibility. So capturing as much information as we can from these remote locations and using that data to work with the people who own the inventory to make improvements. So I don't know if that answers the question. Currently when you create an inventory adjustment or you create a cycle count or you do a cycle count, that is going to update the quantity on hand, but it could always be updated again. So if you wanted to create like an outlier report where you're looking at any inventory adjustments or movements that have been made at a certain percentage variance, you could always go back in and correct those as well as a manager or a manager logging into Salesforce, looking at those audit reports, or as a mobile user as well, and reverse any mistakes that may have been made.
Great. Can matching up invoices and delivery notes?
Oh, sorry, Lainey, cut out. I didn't catch that question.
Can the system be used for reconciliation purposes? In other words, matching up delivery notes and invoices in the system?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a use case and a main driver for snapping a picture of the delivery documentation, so you can kind of understand at which points in the processes things could go awry when we're talking about the movements of quantities.
Great. Okay. Question. What if, so there's a scenario where we ship directly from a warehouse to a sales agent without transferring to branches in between. So can you talk about how that could work or how a sales agent function? Yep.
Sure. I think it depends on like how you see the ownership or responsibility of that inventory that's sitting with the sales agent. So there's a few different scenarios. One is that if it's kind of like an entrepreneurship network where you're actually selling to that agent and then that agent fiscally owns that and is going to redistribute, you would actually do a sales order and the point of fulfillment is to the sales agent when we're talking about the inventory that your organization owns. You could also then collect data points about the activities that sales agent does as well. If you still considered what's in sitting with that sales agent as your organization's property, um, you can do a couple of different things. One is depending on the number of sales agents, with the modules that we currently have, you could essentially create like a virtual warehouse so that individual sales agent is a warehouse there where there's a realm of responsibility around the product that they have in hand, and then they would create sales out of their virtual warehouse essentially. Um, Another way to do this is to create a virtual warehouse that represents all of the inventory that all of the sales agents that would be using product from a particular source warehouse, and then do a transfer order to that realm of responsibility essentially, and then have them sell out of that. I think the four, hot topic features that we've been in discussions about, one of those is allocations, where it's in between. You can allocate product to a sales agent that they can essentially check back in at the end of the day. That's not necessarily a transfer order. But if you did treat a sales agent like a virtual warehouse, you would just do a transfer order to them in the morning with all the product they're taking with them. And then at the end of the day, whatever they didn't sell, or the end of the week, you would do another transfer order back into the field warehouse where that inventory is going to live. Any follow-on questions to that?
I don't see any. Ron will let us know if that answered the question. And I think that's actually all of the questions. I don't see any more coming in and no hands. So I think that's it. Yeah, last call for questions. Yeah, Erin, thanks so much for taking us through this. I'm really excited that we're able to share this with everyone now. So yeah, I think for the audience, if you're interested in using this, if you think this could help with what you're doing, do reach out to a TaroWorks representative at hello@taroworks.org. Or if you're already working with someone, reach out to them directly. So thanks all for joining, and thanks, Erin, for taking us through this.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.